Hello there, and welcome to the little lore project of Where the Streetlights End, where I tell you a little bit about whatever monster I think is cool this week, whether it be from folklore, from film, or in human form. Like, comment, or subscribe for more horror, history, and lore from me. Today, I'll be telling you about one of the most popular and longest-lasting phantoms within the lore and legends of the Americas, and one whose story is as haunting as she herself is. The tale of La Llorona has its origins in Latin America and is particularly common in Mexico. Her story has been told in the region for centuries, a heartbreaking legend which may even predate the colonization of the Americas. The earliest known documentation of La Llorona is dated to 1550 and comes from Mexico City. Because the tale was seemingly born at around the time that Mexico was colonized by Spain, it is intimately tied to Mexico's national identity. Some believe, however, that the story and the phantom that we know today is simply a modernization of much older indigenous tales from Central and South America. There have been parallels found between her and an Aztec deity of motherhood. There are some similarities between the two in how they are depicted and in the themes from their stories. It is possible that the story is much older, but was modified to represent the newer realities of the region. La Llorona is the Spanish name given to the lost soul of a woman doomed to wander the earth for eternity in her suffering. The name translates to the weeping woman. She is often referred to as a woman in white, or the crying woman, as well. But whatever name she is given, La Llorona's tale is tragic, and she is not someone that you want to come across while you are alone at night. Because the story of this otherworldly woman has been told for so long, and by so many people, the details of who she is and how she appears vary a great deal. There have been countless reports of run-ins with this sorrowful specter in newspapers and across the internet. Some say that she can be found along a deserted road, while some say that she waits beside lakes or rivers. But wherever you may meet La Llorona, you will know her because she will be wearing a white dress, and she will be crying, either loudly wailing in such terrible shrieks that it echoes through the night, or softly weeping in a tone just audible above the hum of ambient sound around you. In some versions, she is said to arrive alongside you on the road in a wagon or upon a horse. Sometimes she is seen standing at the side of the road as you drive by, only to appear inside of your car with you a short time after. It is not uncommon to find her walking along the edge of a river or a lake. She is predominantly associated with heartbreak, whether it be due to an unfaithful lover or the result of losing her beloved children in a tragedy. The tale of La Llorona, as told by originmexico.com, takes place during the period in which the Spaniards were actively colonizing the region. This story goes that an indigenous woman and a Spanish man fell in love. At the time, while interracial relations were occurring, it was not acceptable for a Spanish man and a native woman to be joined in a true romantic relationship. It was especially unacceptable for a Spanish man of high status to marry or raise children with a native woman. This presented serious problems for their relationship. They met in secret and kept their relationship hidden for a long while, and it was worth the effort to them because their love for one another was so strong. The couple ended up conceiving 3 beautiful children, to whom the mother was entirely devoted. Over time, however, the mother wanted nothing more than for her children to have a real father. She wished that her lover could see their children more often and be a part of their lives as they grew up. To this end, she asked the Spanish man if they could be married, and to make their family official and whole. Because he was afraid of how he would be treated by his fellow Spaniards, and concerned that he would be outcast for his relationship and illegitimate biracial children, he refused to marry her. Time went on, and over the years, the indigenous woman would beg her Spanish lover to marry her and to be a father to their children, but he always refused. She understood his fears, and she understood that being public with their family would be a great risk, but she knew that everything would be okay as long as they were together. She was devastated to learn one day that the father of her children had married a Spanish woman of high social status. She was so distraught with grief and pain due to this betrayal that she went mad. In her mind, her children would never live happy lives because their father would never love them. She also felt that her own life was destroyed, having dedicated so many years to and raising the 3 children of this wretched man. She brought her children down to the riverbank, gave them all one great hug, and told them how much she loved them. She then held them down underneath the water and drowned them. After they were gone, the woman took her own life. It is said that her guilt in the death of her children and the intense pain from the betrayal of her lover have trapped her soul on earth. From that night on, her cries are heard, sounding along the riverbank where this tragedy took place. Her spirit is doomed to wander desperately, crying in pain and regret as she searches for her children. There is another version of La Llorona's origin story. In more recent times, her tale has been modified to suit the modern era, but the major themes remain the same. Today, there is no major political concern with a Spanish man and indigenous woman having a family together, so the context of her story has been changed to maintain its relevance in our modern culture. This more current version of the legend begins with a beautiful young woman betrothed to the love of her life. Over time, the young couple marries, establishes their own little home, and starts a family. The husband and father, at first so kind and loving toward the young woman, becomes ever more distant over the years, spending more time away from home while the children are very young. The woman believes that he is simply working long hours to support their little family, until she begins to notice even greater changes in his behavior. Her husband, the father of her children, continued to grow more distant, and wouldn't so much as speak to her in the short periods which he spent at home. Over time, the clues began to add up in the mind of the young mother, and she realized that her husband must have found a new lover. He has not been spending days and nights working, but has been out with another woman. This heartbreak overwhelms her, and she goes mad in her state of despair. Perhaps she had suffered from a mental health condition before, or maybe not, but this betrayal of her lover entirely cracks her psyche. In a despair-fueled rage, she calls her young children along with her to the river nearby. Once they reach the shore, the moonlight dancing off of the icy water, she drowns her children. She holds them down underneath the rushing water as she screams and wails in her madness. After they cease to struggle, she releases their bodies to the current and walks slowly back to her home, where she awaits her unfaithful husband's return. When he does show up, late in the night, stinking like the perfume of his secret lover, she stabs him to death. When the young woman comes back to her senses and realizes what terrible things she had done, she takes her own life. The tragic end to her life has trapped her spirit behind on Earth. Oftentimes, she is said to simply be wandering forever, searching for her children. In this case, it's possible that she doesn't remember drowning them, and thinks that they're lost somewhere, needing their mother. It is also possible that she is simply searching for their souls, so that they can be together in the afterlife. But because they were innocent, their spirits were able to pass along peacefully to the other side, and so she will never find them here, and is doomed to search forever. Some particularly frightening stories about La Llorona state that she wanders the night calling not just for her own children, but for any children to come and join her. Her spirit seeks out children in the night to take with her as replacements for her own. This is why children are told to never follow the voice or sound of tears from an unfamiliar woman, especially at nighttime. Her story also explains another common reason for her appearances to this day. The misery that overcame her because of her adulterous husband is why she often comes to lure unfaithful men to their deaths. It is said that she will often show herself to young men and test them to see if they would remain faithful to their lovers. If they take her bait, she takes their life. Those who do not reciprocate her flirtations or follow her willingly are allowed to carry on without suffering her wrath. Other times, she appears to people simply as an omen to warn of an impending tragedy. If you hear the sorrowful wails of a woman in the night, especially along the road or near a waterway, it could be La Llorona. So make sure you're faithful and that your kids don't come with you if you go check it out. There are legends about entities very similar to La Llorona found among countless cultures and all around the world. Her story is brutal and deeply tragic, but not uncommon among folk tales. The image of a lonely woman weeping in the night, drawing people to their deaths, is familiar to the indigenous peoples of Central and South America, but also around Europe, Russia, and the Caribbean, to name only a few. La Llorona is frequently considered to be one of many women in white. A woman in white is a sort of ghost, an ethereal entity, which appears in so many different ghost stories and tales that it would be difficult to give a ballpark number for the frequency at which they appear. Women in white are all very different, appearing in different places, for different reasons, and with different intentions. One thing that they all tend to have in common, aside from the color of their garments, is that they have all suffered some extreme betrayal or loss which prevents their souls from moving on. Why is it that the idea of a woman dressed in white, weeping in the darkness, is such a major theme in ghost stories all around the world? Perhaps an eternally doomed maiden, wounded by betrayal or loss, is simply one of the saddest things that we can imagine. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me for another episode of Little Lore, where I tell you a little bit about a cool monster or story that I think is neat this week. Whether it be from folklore, from film, or a monster in human form. Remember, I have my long-form video essay podcast-style episodes coming out every other week, opposing these weeks. So look out for those if you want more in-depth content about something spooky or weird. And remember to join my Patreon if you want behind-the-scenes content, extra updates, personal stuff from me, or you want to join in on my little giveaway where I send out things from my Etsy shop of equal or greater value than your contribution to my Patreon page. Subscribe if you want more, give a like if you like it, and comment down below if you have any questions or concerns or mean things to say about my face. I love you. Have a good day.